The HR director's voice cut through the conference room like a blade. "We know you've been working 2 jobs, Ms. Chen. You're terminated effective immediately." I didn't flinch. I'd been expecting this conversation for weeks, ever since Marcus Webb, the CEO's nephew, had joined as chief operating officer. He'd been digging through employee records like a man possessed, convinced he'd find inefficiencies to justify his inflated salary and his uncle's nepotistic decision to hire him. "You're right," I said, my voice calm, steady. "I should focus on one." Marcus leaned back in his chair, that smug smile spreading across his face like oil on water. He'd been waiting for this moment, I could tell. 28 years old, MBA from a mid-tier school, 2 years of actual work experience, and he thought he'd caught the company's senior systems architect in a fireable offense. "I'm glad you're not going to make this difficult, Sarah," he said, using my first name with deliberate disrespect. I'd been with Quantum Solutions for 8 years. I'd built 70% of their core infrastructure from scratch. But to him, I was just another employee who'd broken the rules. Moonlighting is a clear violation of your employment contract. Paragraph 4, Section 2. I've already had legal review it. Jennifer from HR nodded, her expression apologetic but firm. She slid a termination letter across the table. "We'll need your laptop, access cards, and any company property by end of day. Your final paycheck will include accrued vacation time." "Of course." I picked up the letter, scanned it briefly, then set it back down. "Just to clarify, which second job are you referring to?" Marcus's smile widened. He pulled out a folder, thick with printed documents. "Oh, we've done our homework, Sarah. Linked Solutions Consulting, LLC, registered in Delaware. You're listed as the principal consultant. You've been billing clients on weekends, using knowledge and probably resources from this company. That's theft of intellectual property on top of contract violation." "I see." I folded my hands on the table. "And you believe Linked Solutions is my second job?" "We don't believe, we know," Marcus said, his voice dripping with condescension. "We have your tax filings, business registration, client invoices. You've made over $200,000 in the past year through that consulting business, while being paid a full-time salary here. It's fraud, frankly. We're being generous by not pursuing legal action." The room felt smaller suddenly. Jennifer shifted in her seat. Marcus's assistant, a young man named Tyler who'd been taking notes, stopped typing. "I appreciate your thoroughness," I said, "though I should point out that Linked Solutions isn't a second job. It's my primary business. Has been since 2019. Marcus laughed. Actually laughed. "Your primary business? Sarah, you work here 40, sometimes 50 hours a week. You're in the office more than I am." "That's true," I agreed. "I do spend a lot of time here, because Quantum Solutions is one of Linked Solutions' clients. My largest client, actually. Has been since 2019. The laughter died. Jennifer's eyes widened. Tyler stopped breathing. "What?" Marcus's voice had lost its smooth confidence. I reached into my bag, pulled out my own folder. Much thinner than his. I only needed 3 documents. "Quantum Solutions doesn't employ me, Mr. Webb. They contract with my company. The agreement was signed by your uncle, CEO Richard Webb, in March 2019. It's a professional services agreement, not an employment contract. I'm an independent contractor, not an employee." I slid the first document across. The letterhead read, "Linked Solutions Consulting, LLC," and below it, "Professional Services Agreement between Linked Solutions, Consulting, LLC, and Quantum Solutions, Inc." Marcus grabbed it, his eyes scanning frantically. Jennifer leaned over to read. Her face went pale. "This can't be right," Marcus said, but his voice wavered. "You have an employee ID. You're on the payroll system. You have benefits." "I have a contractor ID," I corrected, "which your system labels the same way for administrative purposes. And I don't have benefits. I've never had benefits through Quantum." I have my own health insurance, my own retirement accounts. Check with payroll. Every payment to me goes through accounts payable, not payroll. Every invoice is marked as consulting services. Jennifer was already pulling out her phone, typing rapidly. The color had drained completely from her face. But you're here all the time, Marcus insisted, grasping. You manage a team. You approve budgets. You're on the organizational chart. Contractual obligations, I said, spelled out in sections 6 through 9 of the agreement. Linked Solutions provides comprehensive systems architecture services, including team coordination and budget management for technology initiatives. My rates are competitive for that level of service. $250 per hour, 40 hours per week minimum, plus materials and expenses. I watched Marcus do the math. His jaw went slack. That's $500,000 a year, he whispered. $520,000 before expenses, I confirmed, though I've averaged closer to $600,000 annually once you factor in the additional hours during major projects. Last year's cloud migration, for instance, that was a lot of overtime. Tyler had recovered enough to start typing again, his fingers trembling on the keys. This is insane, Marcus said, standing up. There's no way my uncle would agree to pay that much for services an employee could provide for a third of the cost. I slid across the second document. That's the original proposal I submitted when Richard hired me. Well, when he contracted with my company. You'll notice the comparison analysis on page 3. The cost of employing a senior systems architect with my qualifications, including salary, benefits, payroll taxes, office space, equipment, training, and the overhead of managing an employee, versus contracting those services from an established consulting firm, Marcus read. His hands started to shake. The break-even point heavily favored contracting, I continued. Plus, there's flexibility. If Quantum didn't need my services anymore, they could terminate the agreement with 30 days' notice. No severance, no unemployment insurance, no potential wrongful termination lawsuits. Very clean. 30 days' notice, Jennifer repeated, her voice hollow. She was still staring at her phone. Yes. Section 12, paragraph 3. Either party can terminate with written notice 30 days in advance. After the initial 2-year commitment period, of course, which ended in 2021. Marcus sat back down heavily. The employment contract I had legal review, that you supposedly violated, isn't my contract, I finished. I don't have an employment contract with Quantum Solutions. I have a professional services agreement between 2 business entities. Your legal team reviewed the wrong document, probably pulled a template from HR files and assumed I'd signed it. Jennifer made a small, wounded sound. She'd put her phone down. Sarah, I need to make some calls. Would you mind waiting outside? Actually, I said, checking my watch. It was 10:47 a.m. on a Thursday. I do mind, because this meeting, where you informed me I was terminated effective immediately, constitutes written notice of contract termination, which means Linked Solutions Services Agreement with Quantum Solutions will end effective 30 days from today. That's December 29th. The room went silent. Truly, completely silent. Our cloud infrastructure migration isn't complete, Jennifer said finally. The new system goes live January 15th. I'm aware. I designed the migration timeline. Marcus found his voice again. You can't just leave us hanging. That's professional sabotage. It's contract law, Mr. Webb. You terminated the agreement. I'm simply following the terms your uncle negotiated and signed. Section 12 is very clear. Termination requires 30 days' notice, and at the end of those 30 days, all services cease. We'll hire someone else, Marcus said, but it sounded desperate. We'll bring someone in to finish the migration. I smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. You could try, though I should mention the third relevant document. I slid the final paper across. This is the intellectual property agreement, also signed in 2019. All systems architecture designs, custom code, configuration documentation, and implementation strategies created by Linked Solutions for Quantum Solutions remain the property of Linked Solutions unless explicitly transferred through a separate IP transfer agreement. Marcus stared at the document. What does that mean? It means the migration plan is mine. The custom integration code is mine. The system architecture documentation is mine. The configuration scripts are mine. The disaster recovery procedures are mine. All of it is Linked Solutions' intellectual property, licensed to Quantum Solutions for use during the term of the services agreement. Jennifer had gone from pale to gray. Sarah, please, we can fix this. Marcus made a mistake. Marcus made several mistakes, I said. But the biggest one was assuming I was an employee you could simply fire. I'm not. I'm a business owner who contracted services to your company, and that contract is now terminated. We'll pay you extra, Marcus said quickly. Double your rate, triple it. Just finish the migration. I don't think you understand the situation, Mr. Webb. In 30 days, Linked Solutions' agreement with Quantum Solutions ends. At that point, I have no obligation to provide services. And without the IP transfer, which was never executed because your uncle saw no need for it while we had an ongoing relationship, you have no legal right to use my architectural designs or proprietary code. That's extortion, Marcus hissed. That's business, I corrected, and contract law. If you'd like to pursue a new services agreement, with an IP transfer included, my rates have changed. Given the circumstances and the urgent timeline, I'd need $1,000 per hour, with a minimum commitment of 6 months, and I'd need an IP transfer fee for the existing work. Let's call it $500,000. That's quite reasonable, actually, considering you'd be purchasing architecture and code that took 8 years to develop. Tyler had stopped typing. His mouth hung open. This is blackmail, Marcus said. This is what happens when you don't read the contracts your family signs, Mr. Webb. Your uncle understood what he was getting. A highly skilled professional who could build and maintain complex systems without the overhead and liability of direct employment. He was smart enough to recognize that sometimes paying more per hour actually costs less in the long run, and he was smart enough to maintain a good relationship with his contractors. Jennifer's phone buzzed. She looked at it, and whatever she saw there made her close her eyes. Richard is calling an emergency board meeting for this afternoon. I see. I stood collecting my documents. Well, I'll be available by phone if anyone needs to discuss new terms. My consulting rates start at $1,000 per hour now, including for phone calls, so please be respectful of my time. Wait, Marcus said. Standing so quickly his chair tipped backward. You can't just... We need you. The migration, the system, everything will crash if we try to go live without you. Then don't go live, I said simply. Postpone the launch. Find another contractor to build you a new system from scratch. That will take, what, 2 years? 3? Or negotiate a new agreement with Linked Solutions. Those are your options. The new system is already committed, Jennifer said quietly. We've signed contracts with clients. We've made promises to investors. The old system is being decommissioned December 31st by the vendor. If we're not on the new infrastructure by then, we'll have no system at all. I looked at Marcus. His face had gone from confident and smug to ashen and terrified in less than 15 minutes. You should have checked before you fired me, Mr. Webb. Due diligence. I believe that's something they teach in MBA programs. My uncle will never agree to your terms, he said, but there was no strength in it. Then Quantum Solutions will cease operations in 32 days, I said, because on December 31st, your old system goes dark, and without my migration plan and code, you have no new system to switch to. Your clients will sue for breach of contract. Your investors will pull funding. The company will collapse, all because you wanted to feel powerful by firing someone. Jennifer was crying now, quietly. Tyler looked like he might vomit. I've spent 8 years building Quantum's infrastructure, I said, my voice softening just slightly. I've worked weekends, holidays, late nights. I've made your systems run flawlessly. I've saved this company millions in downtime and disaster recovery. I've trained your team, optimized your processes, and positioned Quantum as a technology leader in your industry. And I've done it all as a professional contractor, with clear terms and fair compensation. Your uncle valued that relationship. He respected it. I walked to the door, then turned back. You had no idea who you were firing, Mr. Webb. You saw a woman you could push around, an employee you could terminate to make yourself look decisive and strong. But I'm not your employee. I never was. I'm a business owner who chose to work with Quantum Solutions because your uncle treated me with respect and recognized my value. What do you want? Marcus whispered. Really? What do you want? I want what was on that termination letter, I said, holding up the paper Jennifer had given me. I want to focus on one job, and it's not going to be this one. Linked Solutions has other clients. Clients who value my work and don't threaten me or investigate me or try to humiliate me. I'll finish my 30-day obligation because I'm a professional. After that, you're on your own. I opened the door. The lobby outside was full of Quantum's leadership team, clearly summoned by frantic messages. Richard Webb stood at the center, his face red, his phone pressed to his ear. When he saw me, he ended the call. Sarah, he said, please, let's talk in my office. Your nephew terminated my contract, Richard. There's nothing to talk about until you decide whether you want to negotiate new terms. New terms? Yes. Whatever you need. $1,000 per hour, 6-month minimum, $500,000 IP transfer fee. And Marcus Webb has no authority to speak to me or make decisions regarding Linked Solutions engagement. Those are non-negotiable. Richard looked past me at his nephew, who'd emerged from the conference room looking like a ghost. The CEO's expression was something I'd never seen before. Pure, incandescent rage. Done, Richard said. Tyler, draft the agreement. Sarah, please. I'll need you to explain to the board what happened here. That's a consulting call, I said. We can schedule it for this afternoon. 2 hours, so that's $2,000. I'll send an invoice. I walked to the elevator, pressed the button, and waited. Behind me, I heard Richard's voice, low and furious, tearing into his nephew. I heard Jennifer crying harder. I heard Tyler frantically typing on his laptop. The elevator arrived. I stepped in, turned, and saw Marcus staring at me, his face a mask of shock and disbelief. He'd wanted to fire me to prove himself, to show he could make tough decisions, to demonstrate power. Instead, he'd revealed how little he understood about the business his uncle had built, about contracts and relationships and value. The doors closed. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from my second largest client, asking if I had availability to expand our engagement. I smiled. Yes, I thought. Yes, I do have availability. Starting in 30 days, I have quite a lot of availability. By the time I reached the lobby, my phone was ringing. Richard Webb. I answered. The board wants to meet immediately, he said. They need to understand the situation. I'm available at 2 p.m. 2-hour meeting, $2,000, as I mentioned. Sarah, please. I know you're angry, but I'm not angry, Richard. I'm a business owner managing a contract dispute. If you want my time and expertise, these are the terms. If you don't, that's fine. Linked Solutions will be just fine. Silence. Then, 2 p.m. I'll have the wire transfer completed by then. That works. Send me the meeting link. I ended the call and walked out into the November sunshine. My phone buzzed again. Marcus Webb, sending a text. Please. I didn't know. I made a mistake. Don't destroy the company because of me. I didn't respond. He was right. He hadn't known. And that was exactly the problem. He'd assumed, investigated, accused, and terminated without knowing what he was dealing with, without understanding the 8 years of carefully structured agreements that had made Quantum Solutions successful, without recognizing that sometimes the most valuable people in your company aren't employees at all. My phone rang again, a number I didn't recognize. I answered. Ms. Chen, this is David Morrison from Harrison & Associates. We're the law firm that represents Quantum Solutions. Richard Webb asked me to call you immediately regarding the contract situation. Hello, David. I'm happy to speak with you, though I should mention my consulting rate for legal discussions is $1,500 per hour, and I bill in quarter-hour increments. A pause. Yes, that's fine. Richard authorized whatever fees necessary. Ms. Chen, I need to be frank. I reviewed your services agreement this morning. It's airtight. When Marcus Webb fired you, he effectively terminated a contract that explicitly required 30 days' notice. The IP provisions are clear. Without your cooperation, Quantum Solutions will cease operations by year-end. That's accurate, I said. Richard is prepared to meet your terms, all of them, but the board is asking for assurances that you'll complete the migration. I'll complete my 30-day obligation under the existing contract, I said. If Quantum wants to engage Linked Solutions for the additional 17 days needed to complete the migration, we can negotiate a separate agreement. But my rates and terms stand. The board is also asking that Marcus Webb his role will be changing. He won't have any oversight of technology contracts or vendors. That's an internal matter for Quantum Solutions, I said. Not relevant to whether I take on new consulting engagements. Another pause. I could hear paper rustling, voices in the background. Ms. Chen, may I speak candidly? You're billing this conversation to your client, so please do. A dry chuckle. I've been practicing law for 32 years. I've seen a lot of contract disputes. This is the cleanest, most devastating execution of a contractor's rights I've ever witnessed. You positioned yourself perfectly. The services agreement, the IP provisions, the timing of the system migration, all of it. You knew exactly what you were doing when you set this up 8 years ago. Richard and I worked together to create terms that benefited both parties, I said. I wanted security and fair compensation. He wanted flexibility and top-tier expertise. It was a good arrangement. Until his nephew decided to play executive, David said. Richard is. He's extremely upset. Marcus will likely be out of the company by the end of the week. That's unfortunate, but not my concern. The board meeting at 2 p.m. They're going to ask if there's any concession they can make to ensure you continue working with Quantum. I thought about it. 8 years of late nights and complex systems. 8 years of being respected and valued by Richard Webb. 8 years of building something I was proud of. And then Marcus Webb, deciding in his arrogance that I was expendable. Tell the board I'll hear their proposal at 2 p.m., I said. But they should understand that Linked Solutions is a business, and I make decisions based on what's best for my business and my other clients. Quantum Solutions is no longer my only client. They haven't been for 5 years. I've been diversifying specifically, so no single client could put me in a difficult position. You planned for this, David said, and there was admiration in his voice. You've been planning for this kind of situation for years. I planned for success, I corrected. I built a business that could survive and thrive regardless of what any single client did. That's just good business practice. I'll relay that to the board. They'll be eager to hear your terms at 2 p.m. We ended the call. I got in my car, drove to a nearby coffee shop, and opened my laptop. I had emails from 3 other clients, all asking for expanded services. I had a proposal to write for a new client in the healthcare sector. I had work to do, work that had nothing to do with Quantum Solutions or Marcus Webb or the drama unfolding in their conference rooms. At 1:45 p.m., I logged into the video call. Richard Webb appeared first, looking exhausted. Then the board members, 8 faces arranged in a grid. David Morrison, the lawyer. Jennifer from HR. And to my surprise, Marcus Webb, sitting in a corner, looking smaller somehow. Sarah, Richard began, thank you for making time for us. I want to start by apologizing personally and on behalf of Quantum Solutions for what happened this morning. I appreciate that, I said. I've asked Marcus to join this call so he can apologize directly. Marcus cleared his throat. His voice was rough. Ms. Chen, I made a terrible mistake. I didn't understand the contract structure. I didn't check with my uncle before acting. I caused a crisis that could destroy this company, and I'm sorry. Deeply sorry. I nodded. Apology noted. One of the board members, an older woman named Patricia, spoke up. Ms. Chen, we've reviewed the situation thoroughly. We understand that you have every right to walk away after your 30-day obligation ends, but we're hoping you'll consider continuing your relationship with Quantum Solutions. Not at the terms you proposed this morning. At better terms. I'm listening, I said. Richard took over. We want to offer Linked Solutions a 5-year contract extension. Your rate remains at $250 per hour, or we can convert to a fixed annual fee of $700,000, whichever you prefer. We'll execute an IP transfer for all existing work at no additional charge, which gives you a clean slate and U.S. ownership of what you've built. And we'll add a provision that no executive below CEO level can terminate or modify the agreement without board approval. I considered it. $700,000 annually was more than my current arrangement, and it gave me predictable income. The IP transfer solved the leverage problem. The protection against impulsive termination addressed what had happened that morning. I want the hourly rate, I said, with a minimum of 40 hours per week, but I also want the flexibility to scale up or down as needed. And I want quarterly reviews with you and the board, Richard, to ensure we're both satisfied with the arrangement. Done, Richard said immediately. And I want something else, I continued. I want Quantum Solutions to create a contractor advisory board. You have other contractors and consultants working here. I want them to have a voice in company decisions that affect their engagement. I'll chair it. The board members looked at each other. Patricia smiled. That's a genuinely good idea. Approved. Then Linked Solutions accepts the new terms, I said. I'll have my attorney review the contract language, but assuming it matches what we've discussed, we have a deal. Relief flooded the screen. Richard's shoulders dropped. Jennifer wiped her eyes again. The board members nodded approvingly. Marcus, Richard said, turning to his nephew, you're being reassigned to business development. You'll report to Patricia, not to me. You will have no authority over any contractor relationships, vendor agreements, or technology decisions. If you have concerns about any employee or contractor, you will raise them with Patricia or with me privately, and we will investigate before taking action. Do you understand? Yes, sir, Marcus said quietly. I understand. And Ms. Chen, I really am sorry. I was trying to prove something, and I nearly destroyed everything my uncle built. Lesson learned, I hope, I said. Due diligence isn't just about finding problems. It's about understanding what you're dealing with before you act. The meeting wrapped up quickly after that. Contracts would be drafted by end of week. The migration would continue on schedule. Quantum Solutions would survive, and Linked Solutions would continue as their primary technology partner. I closed my laptop and sat back. My phone buzzed. A text from Richard. Thank you for being reasonable, and thank you for 8 years of exceptional work. I won't forget this. I smiled. Reasonable. Yes, I'd been reasonable. I'd also been prepared. I'd structured my business exactly for situations like this, where someone might decide I was expendable, where my value might be questioned, where power dynamics might shift. I'd built protections, leveraged contracts, maintained other clients, and created IP provisions that ensured I could never be simply discarded. Marcus Webb had called me in to fire me. He'd thought he was exercising power, making a tough decision, proving himself as an executive. Instead, He'd learned what happens when you underestimate the person across the table, when you assume authority means understanding, when you mistake a contractor for an employee you can dismiss at will. I gathered my things and left the coffee shop. The sun was setting, and the November air was crisp. My phone rang one more time. Another potential client, referred by someone I'd worked with years ago. I answered, discussed their needs, quoted my rates, and scheduled a consultation for next week. Linked Solutions was growing. Quantum Solutions would be fine. And Marcus Webb would spend the rest of his career remembering the day he tried to fire the woman who held all the cards.